Hey, what's going on, folks? This is LB the Realist with Surrealistic Studio. Surreal news where the real is surreal. Now, I'm gonna make this one short and sweet. We'll try to make it short and sweet. During the Democratic debates, number 3, Beto or Rourke had an interesting night, I'd say. He said some interesting things about slavery. He brought up the history of slavery and the history of institutionalized racism, and he actually brought up reparations. He said that he would support Shirley Weber's legislation to study the issue and possibly put forth a plan of action in regards to reparations for our American descendants of slaves. So, and that's how it should be. You guys know that I am a big proponent of reparations for ADOS. You know, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, there is a past that has to be reckoned with. There is a present that has to be reckoned with. And in institutionalized racism, you know, we actually had laws on the books, you know, specifically for African Americans. You know, we were property, not seen as human. So we've been far left behind in a lot of aspects in regards to how we live in this country, even though, you know, the slaves are the ones that practically built this country, basically funded this whole business of America. So I won't go off too deep on that tangent. You guys know how I feel about it. He also said something that on the flip side I don't agree with. He brought up gun confiscation. Okay? Now, you know, we don't want to have these mass shootings. We're always saddened to hear how many lives are lost. We just had a shooting in El Paso, Texas. We had another one. I forget exactly where the other one was. You know, they keep happening, and we want something to be done. Something needs to be done. So he brought up the fact that he is willing to confiscate everyone's AR-15s, AK-47s. He says, you know, assault weapons or weapons of war, weapons that should be left on the battlefield. And I'm not exactly in agreement with that. And I think that he really hurt himself. It may have been a positive spin. And at the time, like, he may see some growth because of his stance, his hard stance on gun reform, and the fact that he's willing to be the confiscator in chief. But in the long run, I don't think that was the right decision to make. I think he really hurt the Democratic Party, because now the right or the Republican Party gets to say, hey, look, the Democrats, we keep telling you they want to take your guns. We keep telling you they're going to come and take your guns and confiscate all your weapons. And look what this guy Beto O'Rourke just said. Look what Beto just said. Look what the Democrats want to do. The Democrats want to take your guns forcefully. And you heard how he said it. I mean, if you guys saw the debates, he was very forceful about it. He said, hell yes, I'm going to take your guns. Hell yes, I'm going to take your AK-47s and your ARs and, you know, all of this stuff. And again, I get the sentiment. I get where it comes from. You know, he was dealing with the mass shooting in his state, so it hit him personally. And all too often, people only really change their minds, or they only really see the light when it happens to them personally. But it's important that we don't get overly, I don't want to say overly emotional, because you can't not get overly emotional when literally children are dying, teenagers, women, men, everyone is being shot. And, you know, it's a ticking time bomb that's just all too prevalent in today's society. So I don't want to say that we're getting overly emotional about it, but we have to be careful not to direct all of our anger and pain and frustration in the wrong direction. I mean, did we all forget what happened in China with the whole knife attack? Dude killed, like, how many, I forget how many people he stabbed up or killed in China with a knife. You know, so we always do this. We always want to put a band-aid on a gushing, gaping wound. We never really want to address the issues that cause people to want to commit these mass murders, of these mass shootings, these atrocities. We don't want to deal with it. Instead, we always go back to the same talking points, and the conversation never gets anywhere because we got on this side people yelling the same thing. We got this side people yelling the exact same thing. And we're not moving. We're not moving the ball down the field at all on the issue of gun reform. You know, Trump will say one thing, and then in the next minute he'll say another thing. Mitch McConnell's not moving for shit. The NRA still has a stranglehold in our government and on our politicians. And it makes no sense. You know, I'm not one that says that we shouldn't have any gun reform at all. I am one to question what kind of gun reform, you know, we put into place. Like, I don't think that we should be so quick to just ban something that in reality only makes up a tiny part of gun violence. Now, the tiny part of gun violence that we're witnessing are these mass shootings and these mass atrocities. So it's very hard to cope with, knowing that these things are happening so often, or, you know, so much more often. But in reality, most gun violence is done with handguns. So when we have these politicians coming out saying that, yes, hell yeah, I want to confiscate your guns, hell yeah, I want to take your ARs and your AKs and these weapons of war and these assault weapons. Well, first we have to understand what an assault weapon is. Some would argue there's no such thing as an assault weapon that citizens can own because we only have semi-automatics, and some politicians would argue that they want to take all semi-automatic guns away. So depending on who we're talking to, the story changes a little bit, and those little bit of differences matter, because whether you're talking about automatics or semi-automatic guns, where most guns that you can own in the United States are semi-automatic guns. So if you're talking about taking all semi-automatic guns away, then you're talking about confiscating mostly all guns. So nobody, you know, we don't have automatic weapons available legally in California. That's not a thing. We have no weapons of war out here in California. You know, so, and California has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, along with Chicago, and we still see atrocities going on in both of these states, my home state of California as well as Chicago, Illinois. So we have to really, I'm not trying to argue, oh, because I just really want to keep my AR. I don't even own an AR. I don't have an AK-47. I own weapons, but not those. But I just really want us to address the issues and not, you know, like Trump. Trump is a symptom of a deeper issue. He's not the whole issue himself. AR-15s, AK-47s are symptoms of the issue, but they're not the whole issue themselves. You know, and it's just a reality that responsible people with guns are not committing these mass atrocities. Like, these are specific people. These are people that are out there. These are people that have been propagandized. These are people that have lost their fucking shit. It really is a mental health issue, because no person of normal mental health would go as far as to take his gun out and to just go shoot people. But oftentimes these people are people that got weapons even though they weren't supposed to get them in the first place. You know, these people were flagged and still somehow got their weapons. You know, so there's a problem with us addressing the main causes, the main causes of these issues of gun violence. There's a problem with the system that we already have in place. You know, and there's a problem with the way we're looking at this whole issue you know, we're looking at it the wrong way. We're thinking that if we just ban all guns, well, then that's going to solve our problems. But nobody's ever talking about banning guns for police officers, even though we have a real issue with police officers killing unarmed citizens all too often. Even citizens that have, I don't know, maybe holding a pipe or a knife, you know, still they have to shoot them down. They still have to kill them and fire 37, 47, 87 shots into that person with multiple officers around. But we're not having that conversation about taking weapons of war away from police officers. We're having it for citizens. So leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Like this video if you like, share it, and subscribe to me if you haven't before. let me know what you guys have to say about this. I don't agree with what Beto said. I think it was a poor strategic move on his behalf. Like I said, I think it may gain him some points now, but in the long run, I think it's really going to hurt him. I think it really hurts the party. And I don't think that this is the way we're going to, I don't think this is the way we should address this issue of mass shootings. So on that note, and I could be totally wrong, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. On that note, I'm out. Love, peace, and chicken grease. That's what we need. Maybe a little less chicken grease, a lot more peace. Until next time, folks. I'm out.